But we actually touched on a lot of the points that we want to discuss today within the actual conversations that we're having now. One of which is the diaspora. We mentioned a lot of, at least for myself, I'm a diaspora of Haitian descent, or not even nationality, basically. I'm a Haitian coming to here in the States to live. And each one of us have, in some way or another, if you're an immigrant, obviously, and you're coming here, have experienced, you know, some sort of culture shock. Not necessarily only food or relationships, religion, or a lot of different aspects, but that we're going to discuss throughout the show. But in terms of being a diaspora, who here is a diaspora in the States? I mean, I know I am. You are, Patrick, and maybe you, right? Yeah. But you two were born here.
I'm native, yes. Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but the cultures are out, you know, considered still obviously a different culture than here, obviously.
Right.
But anything you guys want to share with me in terms of like, or with us in terms of like the diaspora effect? Because you mentioned that also when diaspora was coming back home, right?
Yeah, just to expound on that, the irony is that the rest of the world thinks Africa is so poor, but people who go, just to add to that, people who go out in the world and then come back home are expected, like I said, to bring things back or to bring gifts back and things like that. So I just thought that was ironic that even if you're here working in McDonald's, when you go home, they're like, bring me an iPhone. Right. Leave me your phone. You can just get another one.
Yeah.
What do you think? I think I'm just shaking a tree and the money is a fall? Translated in English. We said that in Creole.
Well, that happens to me every time I go back home. It's like, hey, can you leave the phone with me? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm still paying for that phone. You know? I mean, leave your watch or whatever. So that's going back home. You know, living here is also a shock for a lot of people because they want you to come home and they're expecting you to come with a lot of money, a lot of gifts and stuff like that. So, what about you? Do you go back home often or no? No, right?
No puedo regresar. Pero Venezuela ha sido un país donde se ha dispersado las personas, porque, o sea, nosotros como en Venezuela era un país de muchos inmigrantes y ahora por circunstancias esos inmigrantes se han convertido en emigrantes. Y ahora eso lo he notado, mi cultura está en todas partes del mundo, yo lo he visto por las noticias, cuando voy a trabajar en las calles también lo he visto.
Okay. Right, but I think I understood some of it, not all of it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm doing my best here.
One of the experiences I had when I went to France, right, was when I was speaking English. And I was in Huntsy where there's a lot of English people there. And then it was funny to me where they'd be like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm from Romania, and they go to me as "Oh, you're American." I'm like, "How do you know I'm American?" I was like, "Your accent." I'm like, "Well, but back in America, when I speak English, they ask me where you're from."
Because our American is bastardized language. Like American is a bastardized language. You know, it's a mixture of a lot of different languages. So we're not really speaking a native tongue. We're just
here. You know what I mean? So you could hear my Creole accent, my French accent. While I was overseas, you could hear my American accent. Right. But then when I was speaking French, they would be like, "Where are you from?" Really? Now you can hear my Creole accent. I was like, wow. So that's how I was like, yeah, I'm definitely Haitian American but I could also see in the culture of how I was dressed versus how they were dressed.
Right. That you stood out. They knew.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I will say like about here is because I'm a native. It's another perspective where you have quote unquote misnomer black people. Most of us think that if you're black or African American or melanin rich, which we're actually Moorish Americans, but we think that if you're in America, you came here on a slave ship. If you have this skin color, you came here on a slave ship. And it disconnects us. And they teach us that in school. We go through the school system and say, hey, your history starts at slavery. That's where it started for you. And that's where it starts. You go to American school, they tell you if you're a black American or African American, your history started as a slave. That creates an inferiority complex within a lot of people who don't do their own research. And because of that, you have the dynamic that we're dealing with right now. You have a lot of people out there who are not confident in themselves. They feel inferior. They feel they're helpless, not realizing that, hey, yes, some of us did come over here on slave ships, but a lot of us were already here. And some of us came here before any European knew how to sail. You understand what I'm saying? So to understand that is an empowering aspect that's missing from a lot of people with melanin-rich skin that are in this country. We have to realize that you can't let third parties tell your narrative. You can't look through your culture and your history through the eyes of Europeans, because that's how we're looking at our culture. Hey, we came here as slaves. We should be happy to be here, and we're inferior. And you have the results that we're dealing with now. Instead of, hey, I come from a culture. I come from a great people. I have a nationality. We were here. We did this. We did that. And I can do this. You know what I'm saying? So that's the flip side to the coin, from being here, that I just wanted to highlight.
No, that's important. And before you say anything, I want to say something real quick. That also as part of that, the African culture, for example. Right. Africa is a continent.
It's a continent.
It has hundreds of countries,
Africans,
and every country has their own identity.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of similarities, just like in Europe. Or you're not going to hear somebody say, Euro-American.
Right.
You're going to hear Italian-American, French-American, or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm Guyanese.
So they have their
Nigerian.
identities and stories.
Exactly. That's what we're missing here.
So that's what you're kind of like saying.
And I had to, when I first got, I always ask myself, well, why do you keep saying African-American?
Right. It's a continent. You can't be two continents.
African-American.
You're saying you're two.
Why can't it just all be American?
Right.
Just like born and raised in Haiti. Yeah.
You're Haitian American.
Because I came here and I'm Haitian American.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm in Haiti. I am Haitian. I'm not Haitian American when I'm in Haiti.
Right. You're Haitian.
I am Haitian.
Right.
But
you have your identity. You have the connection, and this is what I was like. We're disconnected here. Luckily, I have my elders. I have my great grandmother. She's still alive. You know what I mean? I can get the oral traditions. I do a lot.
Hold
of
up. You
study.
said your great.
My great grandmother.
What?
So my grandmother's grandmother is still alive.
Whoa.
She's full-blooded Cherokee Indian. Her mother's full-blooded Cherokee Native American. Because Indians come from India. But the point is, you guys have your nationalities. You all are so empowered and cultured and feel that energy because you have that root. Our people here, they don't have that. They really think they're black people. This table is black. I haven't seen anybody out there that looks like that. Nobody.
Yes.
I haven't seen a Caucasian or European that looks like that color of the shirt. Hey, I'm Italian American. And like you said, Africa is a continent. You can't be African American. You can be Guyanese American. You can be Nigerian American. You can be Moroccan American, but you can't claim two continents. And it's used as a tool to denationalize us and strip us from our identity. And it's also used to have us give away our birthrights. Your birthright is everything. Your culture ties you to your birthright, which is your land, your culture, your people, your mothers and your fathers. In the Bible and Scripture it says, honor thy mother and father so your days can be long on the earth plane. And that's what it's all about. And when that's disconnected, you have what we're dealing with out here. So, on the flip side of diaspora is people who are from here who don't know that they've been here for way before you've been here.
Yeah, that's why I say culture in so many ways is the foundation of who
you are.
Who you are.
Yeah.
And when you don't have that foundation, where you know that you're born in a country where it was mostly Native Indians.
Right.
But I'm called African. But
right.
Which part?
Which
part of
Africa?
Right.
Africa I'm from. For example, say you have Haiti and then you have Jamaica.
Right. Where are you?
But I think most of
you're not gonna say Caribbean American.
Right. Exactly.
I think when I do my research, most of us slaves came from Senegal.
A lot.
So we have that background where we could go, but at the end, Jamaican and Haitian, it's similar culture but very different culture.
And now
different also
tied back to a place where
colonial impact, all the French and
the key.
So
colonial impact.
We all have more in common. All of us. We have more in common as humans than we have differences, and that's the main narrative that we need to focus on. We're looking at the differences when we have, and we also have to realize history. At one point in time, this is science. This is just science. The Earth was one landmass at one point in time.
Right.
So it was all one. You could walk from Africa, quote unquote, Africa to America at some point in time. You could walk. So there were migrations upon migrations upon migrations, and amalgamations and amalgamations and mixings and mixings. Yeah. The important thing is the narrative. If you don't have a concept of the true narrative, you're going to be lost, and people are going to control your destiny. So when you know your culture, that's the most powerful thing that you can have in this country and anywhere else, because it ties you to your nativity. And you know,
all right, we're gonna take a quick break. You wanted to say something when you mentioned, I think it was the African American part.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting when I first came here and learned about, you know, American history and how there were Native Americans. And then there were Americans.
Right.
And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the Native Americans are the Americans.
Period.
The
like
what European Americans.
Right.
Like,
And yet they have to give, you have to hyphenate.
Right.
The real
it's all
ones
about, like,
from
the narrative and
what would
about who's writing the story.
European Americans.
There is no, that's what I'm saying, because
there's no European Americans. There's Italian Americans,
there's
German
German
Americans, Russian Americans.
It's the narrative, because if you empower people that genetically have power, it's over. So you have to control a man's mind to control his habits. So if I tell you, hey, I'm just gonna keep you lost in the sauce. Right now you're a Negro. Now you're a nigger. Now, excuse my language.
Yeah.
You know,
This is a big
you're a Negro. Now you're black. Now you're African American. 20 years from now, it's gonna be something different. Now you're whatever. You know, instead of we're following a narrative to keep us lost in the sauce, and that's the issue. That's all I'm saying.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break and then we'll come back. A lot of heated stuff going on.
Yeah.